Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're live.
Hi.
Hey, Mr. Mayor. We do have everybody on. Councilman, well, I started calling Councilman Shealy to bring a few words, but I'm gonna have to go back to my Catholic deacon, Councilman Shaheed. You bring a few words, please.
All right. By the way, the mayor and I were able to attend the closing ceremony at the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist and Finbar, that have been aptly applied with Cardinal Dolan, and it was a very, very wonderful spiritual event and a very appropriate end to the commemoration of the diocesan 200th anniversary, which should not be missed by most Catholics, is that we were commemorating our 350th anniversary and the diocese is only 200 years old. So
Right.
some people thought. With that, Almighty God, we ask for your blessing. Bless this council, bless our staff, bless the good citizens of Charleston. And as always, let us do the will of the people. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you. Minutes to the 24th being deferred. We have approval of the minutes for June 14th of 2021.
So move.
Second.
Moving second. Any questions on those minutes? Hearing none. All in favor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Acceptance and dedication of rights of way. Item E1, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. This is one of our DOT maintenance agreement letters for, there's going to be a multi-use path along Oceanic Boulevard, and that's about 1,300 linear feet. And that path and the items associated with that, we're agreeing to take over the maintenance. So we've actually taken over, we've done most of these items in a previous letter to DOT, but they've added a wall, a retaining wall for just to make sure that there's not any erosion, and also they specify the handrail where that is above elevation. So we're just basically just clarifying those items in this memo.
Okay, so do we pay for that installation, or they paid for it and then we taking over the maintenance?
The county actually is county's actually designing and building it, then we'll take over the maintenance of it.
Got you. All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? Mr. Mayor?
Tom, does that run literally right up against I-26 there? There's not much room as you go down Oceanic. Does it go all the way through, so to speak?
It's kind of, Mayor, it's more on the western side, kind of in conjunction with that Magnolia as a connectivity path like that is the way it actually runs.
Okay.
You're good. We have a motion?
So move.
Properly moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item E2, Mr. O'Brien.
Items 2 through 5 are just at various locations. These are subdivisions and roadways which we're requesting to be admitted in. They've either been constructed and completed, and where they have not been constructed, those items have been bonded, as we mentioned before. Most of the time, that's just sidewalks or the overlay of the thing. But we, Mr. McQueenie's done an excellent job of helping us get through these items, and we're recommending for approval and acceptance of all the maintenance of these subway roads.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bryan. Any questions on items 2 through 5?
Move for approval.
Properly moved and seconded by council member. Who's going to second this?
I'll second.
All right, Councilmember Ross seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it. Item G, G1, discussion on proposed ordinance changes pertaining to environmental services. Mr. O'Brien?
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, I just want to report item F, the encroachments. We're giving you this information.
Right.
All standard items, mostly irrigation. We have a couple fences in there, and they've all been reviewed in the field and recommended for approval.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, sir.
Now G1.
G, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yeah, Tom, I was just going to ask, almost all the time, these are temporary encroachments. I saw on here you had a few permanent ones. How do you gauge allowing the permanent versus the temporary in general?
The code specifies the difference in those, Mayor, and the permanent ones most of the time are things like footings or portions of building that are actually permanent structures versus movable items such as fences and irrigations and things like that. That's how they're specified.
Okay. All right, just curious. Thank you.
So Brian, G1?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And I sent out today, I hope everybody had a chance to receive that. I'm sure probably not a chance to really go into depth, but Matt and I recently, in reviewing the city ordinance and code, it really just needed some cleanup and also in some areas some clarification and some additions. What we've done here is sections 14.4.6 to 4.7 deal with collections. And what I'd like to do is just kind of go through the changes that we're proposing are in red, and anything that we're asking to be deleted has been crossed out on the papers I sent you. And I'll just go down the list. And does anybody on the committee or any other council members have any questions as we go along, just stop me, and Matt and I'll be glad to explain those to you.
All right.
Basically, in section A, we're talking about the requirement for multifamily commercial establishments, with the exception of the central business district, and schools are required to use dumpsters for collection unless otherwise authorized by the city. And that's just really a clarification to make sure that we don't have large apartment complexes and things of that nature come to us and say, we want 200 cans and want you to collect those cans. Historically, it's been shown in development that those type areas and functions do better with dumpster collections. So it's really kind of to clarify that. In the central business district, which we'll go in a little bit later in 14.4.7, there's a little bit different animal because of the nature of the complexity of no locations for things like dumpsters. But that does that. And as you go down through A1, 2, 3, we're just clarifying the type of containers, which are the standard containers, which are the the rollouts with the bars, which allow the trucks either semi-automated or in case the automatic side loaders fully automated to load those cans into the trucks. So that clarifies that.
Hey, Tom,
Yes, sir.
can I have like 6 extra rollout containers? Because every time one of my constituents complains about one of their containers being destroyed, I don't mind just taking one to them, putting it in the back of my truck and hauling it over to them as good council member service to a constituent. I'm kind of saying that with tongue in cheek, by the way, but I just
Well, we should.
I deal with that with one of my more frequent questions about getting a replacement can.
And one thing, I'm gonna let Matt talk about that in a little bit when we talk about cans, but a lot of times what we found, and Matt, jump in here anytime you want, on cans, the lids, because of just the nature of the abuse of the action that they're taking in, take a lot of abuse. And we are thinking about going to a process because, as you know, the city supplies every homeowner or resident with 1 can, and they are also available to, if they so desire, to purchase up to 2 additional cans of their own. And what we're going to do is to make sure that those cans, if the lids need to be replacing and they're on the cans that the homeowner has bought, we'll have a different color lid, so we'll know to be able to substantiate the difference between those. But Mr. Shade, we appreciate you offering to be a member, but if you just send us an email, we'll get those out there pretty much hopefully that same day, okay?
Hey, I was going to take him up on the offer, Tom. He'd help delivering those things.
I get like one or 2 a month about replacing the cans, and Matt's wonderful about responding to that. But it's one of those things that if I drove up with a can out of the back of my truck, I think my constituents would be happy with it.
Come down to Milford Street and pick them up.
We'll be glad to let you be a part of the team. We'll get you a shirt and everything. How about that?
All right.
As we move down to 14.4.6B, we're talking about bulk pickup. And one thing you'll notice we've also done here, it used to refer to City Sanitation Division. It's now called Environmental Services. So we're just cleaning that up as a matter of housekeeping. But when we talk about bulk, one of the main issues that we have constantly is piles of debris or bulk that are larger than can be picked up in one thing. So what we've done, and Matt's done a lot of research and trying to standardize with what is the industry size and what a lot of our local governments are doing, we're proposing a pile cannot exceed 4.5 cubic yards, which is a 4x4x4 pile. And that would be the standard size pile of debris that we would pick up at any time. If you were to have a pile that was larger than that, then we would allow you to arrange for an additional pickup. And we came up with a cost of $250 per pile on that. Moving right along to 4.
Wait, Mr. Bryan, hold on a second. Councilmember Appel.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom, how is this cost going to be assessed?
We looked at Matt, jump in with me here. We looked at the cost. Obviously, we're not going to charge people more than what the cost is, but the cost of a unit to go out and the time, the travel, the cost of the actual personnel to do the pickup and then delivery to the landfill, that's the number we came up with.
I appreciate that. I guess my question is just like, is a bill going to be sent to the address, or how is the actual transaction going to take place? I guess that's my question. So put on their.
We're actually working right now with IT, working with Wes, and we're going to set up a system where they can just once it's been arranged, they can bill and be able to pay that online.
So we'll have cameras on the trucks. The trucks right now have cameras on them. So if they pull up to a pile and the pile's out of code, they can snap that picture, and our citizen service desk will have that picture in case the resident calls in, but we'll be able to generate a bill and that to send to the resident. Like Tom said, we are working with IT and Wes on getting all that stuff set up and squared away.
Let me ask this. I guess this is for Matt or Mr. O'Brien. Are these piles that we previously picked up for free?
Yes.
Okay. So how's the public going to be educated on what's compliant and what's not compliant, in particular after they already put it out to the curb?
Well, Matt today sent. Matt, did you send that to all the council members today?
I did, and that will be modified as these changes come into place. I mean, this is not something we're looking to do before the end of the year. It'll probably be something that starts January, gives us time to get things out to the public with the help of PIO.
Services.
Yep.
Mr. Waring, what we would do is we have a flyer which we would prepare any changes that would note those changes, but working with Meg and Rebecca in Neighborhood Services and Jack and PIO, we would get that word out.
Yeah. We've also considered putting them in water bills too, so that way it goes to every house.
Yeah. I think we need a robust educational process on that, because I can see that being tremendously unpopular.
Yeah. So we're trying to modify behavior. It's not like we're trying to charge to make a profit. We want to modify the behavior because there are a lot, I would say probably 30% of the residents are taking advantage of the situation and putting out entire dump truck full of stuff. And we just, with the landfill being in Spring Grove now and having that extra time to and from, it's creating overtime, and we just have to get our costs under control.
I hear you. I'm just talking about the educational piece. I want to recognize Councilman Griffin. You're on mute, Councilman Griffin.
Thank you so much. I can understand that, our costs are going up and we can't be giving things out for free all the time. We've talked about this as a council and as a committee in the past, but we have to really have a robust educational phase before we start charging people, like you said, Councilmember Waring. So I think I don't know why we would need to vote on this today. I think that we've got some time.
Councilmember Griffin, this wasn't intent. This was for discussion to bring that.
Okay, perfect.
We weren't.
Well, we've got some time.
Yes,
we
sir.
need to get out in the community and do some public meetings, and at least at maybe some, Bees Landing, Rec Center, Daniel Island, James Island, and really try to help out with the educational phase of this. That one pager is going to be very beneficial. Matt sent it out this morning, but that's the first time I've seen that. And that is something that if we could, even if we spent a little bit of money and hit everybody's mailbox with that, that one pager would go a long way, because a lot of people, they're just doing the same behaviors that they've always been able to do. And they don't know what it costs the city. They figure they pay taxes, and that's something we offer. And, they're just getting a service that they expect. So we're going to change the rules on them. We've got to give ample amount of opportunity to put that education out there first. I'm glad we're talking about it 5 months in advance.
Yeah.
But, before we even take the next step, I would love to know exactly what our educational steps will be first, because I agree with both you fellas. We can't keep putting the burden back on the city every time. But we have taken that responsibility and we've set the precedent for many, many years. So we need to give people ample opportunity to understand that we're making a change.
Yes, sir. We'll be glad to work it, and we'll present that program of education to the committee before we actually get started on it.
Good deal. Great.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any more points, Mr. O'Brien?
Just a couple more just to point out. B4, excessive bulk and garbage generation by move-in and move-outs at residential dwellings. We had a cost on that. Sometimes people that they'll clear a whole house or things out. We've added a cost of $250 per load on that to do that. And that's something we'd ask people to schedule. That wouldn't be something, but if you were like moving into a house and clearing everything out, we would do that as additional. You could be able to put out your normal load, but anything above and beyond, we would allow you to schedule, and we would pick that up for a fee, that fee.
Okay, how are we gonna handle bad actors that, they moving and leaving the city and put their trash out and they haul boogie and it's out there, making the neighborhood look junky? How are we gonna handle that?
We'll probably work with Dan Riccio and Livability on those type violations, but obviously we're not gonna leave it out there and let our other citizens suffer as a result of somebody that's a bad apple. We like to do that.
Good deal. Ms. Simmons, I saw your hands up. You want to be recognized?
Yes, before we move on, according to the code, we just got to go back for a second. Under the temporary encroachments, we have 3 permanent encroachments, numbers 2, 14, and 15. Those have to be approved by the committee. So we would need a vote on those 3 items.
2, 14, and 15.
So moved.
Okay, probably moved on those permanent easements.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Mr.
Any
Chairman,
opposed?
I'd also like to add, I noticed those and
Well, first, let me thank Ms. Simmons for catching that. Thank you very much.
Ms.
Mr.
Moore is not here this afternoon, but I believe that's a typo on those based on the type of encroachment that is. I mean, those are 2 irrigations and 1 fence, and unless there's an extenuating circumstance, which I don't remember from my review of those, I think that's an error on her part.
All right, okay, great. Well, we got it covered either way. Okay.
I'll verify and get back with Velvet to make sure that we, if they're required, that we do that.
All right,
Thanks for
great.
catching that, Velvet. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Bryan, any more points in this discussion?
Just a couple more highlights as we go down to C, 30-gallon bags, which are the standard bags for brown bags for putting out. But we were taking that, and this will be an education thing like Councilmember Griffith said, but we're going to limit that to 15 bags a week. And it'll be leaves and clippings, and it can't be rocks and dirt. Those are things that's just kind of industry standards. And as we go down, as we get more into vegetative debris, it talks about the piles and the limbs and the size and things of those nature. Moving on. One thing that if we're looking at item G, this is something, it talks about no loose bags of garbage or cardboard shall be placed outside of the container. That causes an issue as we get more to the automatic side loaders. If anything that's placed outside is not going to be picked up unless the driver gets out. And during COVID, one thing we started was for safety and things of that nature is to not have loose items outside, is to make sure everything's in a can for collection when it comes to garbage. And we do offer, as we've said before, if 1 can is not enough, the ability for a citizen to purchase another can, but it just slows down. If we have an automatic side loader where a driver has to continually get out and throw bags, it just slows down the operation and makes us inefficient. And we just don't want things outside of the cans that are garbage collection.
Right, makes sense.
It also prevents, bags getting torn, litter being blown all over, rodents, all that other things that come along with it. That's why it's important to have it in the can too.
Makes sense. Mr. Mayor, you want to be recognized?
So I just had an idea last week, and it kind of relates to communications regarding garbage and trash pickup. if you'll allow me to share this and then just bounce it around. So last week on my street, no, it was week before, it was not the recycling pickup week. And one person in my neighborhood put their blue can out, right? And so 2 doors down later that day, somebody saw that blue can. Oh, it must be recycling week. So they put the can out. And so by a day or two later, like half the neighborhood had their blue cans out, even though it wasn't even the week for the county to pick up. And then from time to time, we have holidays and our schedule changes and, you know, people don't know about it. And boy, I yearn for the day where we could just directly communicate with every citizen, you know, your garbage won't be picked up until Wednesday this week. But I was just thinking out loud, and this would take collaboration with the county, and you know that expression, there's an app for that. Is there any way, and I'm glad Tracy McKee is on the call, maybe she could help figure this out, that we could coordinate with GIS and have this deal where you could either call in or text or sign in and give your street address and know when your garbage pickup is going to be, when your trash pickup is going to be, when your county recycling pickup is going to be for that address. Just something that kind of gathers all that information. If we did that, it could be a good communication tool for the future. Just a thought.
Okay, makes sense.
If I might, there actually, GIS actually does have something similar on their website right now. So that is definitely, I think, something that could be made part of a mobile app as well, and maybe embedded into our app. So. And
do we coordinate with the county on that? Do we have the recycling along with our info?
We do. We actually pull data directly from the county's GIS service. So we pull, yeah.
As usual, they're one step ahead of me.
Councilman is trying to get recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I thought there was a app available that we use for notifications. I mean, I think like we have a neighborhood notification alert if there's something else dealing with an emergency. Right after the May riots last year, we passed that around, had people sign up for that. Is that easily convertible for some kind of same notification? Tracy, somebody?
I know the chairman doesn't know that answer, so.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure. What application are you referring to? I'm not quite sure.
Right after the May riot last year, we went around and we gave people a flyer. We taught them how to sign up to receive an alert. They downloaded either from an app or some other device and neighborhood alert. And I get these alerts all the time off my phone on one of these websites about a suspicious car driving down the neighborhood. Someone's on my porch trying to steal my Amazon package. I get those alerts all the time. I thought that there was a mechanism along the lines what the mayor was saying about an alert as a reminder. Monday was a holiday. We're one day off on trash pickup. I don't know why we can't convert it to something similar to that.
I'm not exactly sure what it was, but was it next door? Is that something that?
Well, that's not run by the city.
Right.
That's something else that I just voluntarily downloaded. But I know that we last year passed out an opportunity for folks to receive alerts from the police department.
Okay, I think that was actually the 911 alerts through the county. The county actually has that technology, and I think we were piggybacking off of their alert system. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe that's the case. Pardon?
Reverse 911, is that what you're talking about?
No, it's not reverse 911. They just have an alert system that you can voluntarily sign up for, and they do push alerts through that technology that they have. I could be wrong, but I don't believe we have that same system available in the city.
Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna try to get us back on the agenda, and let me tell you why I'm a little bit selfish. Got to cut out at 5. Our priest, Mayor and Councilman Shahid, is leaving. He's being transferred after almost 14 years, and
Oh, no.
yeah, Father Henry Kula. So anyway, I want to certainly be there to recognize him. So I want to
Yeah,
get
absolutely.
back on.
But
Okay.
we'll be quiet so we can make sure you get there
Well,
on
no,
time.
we go follow the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Brown. If that's okay, we're gonna get some additional information on that one.
Yes, sir.
Out to a robust educational program. I want to segue into the G2, the discussion on the holiday schedule for trash pickup. And I want to recognize our council member, Shealy. He had an issue with that and asked for this to be put on the agenda. Can you describe the issue, council member Shealy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you letting me join. First of all, want to say that, we switched over to Trident. They've done a fantastic job. I've actually received compliments from people that if I hear from them, it's usually not good. And I'm hearing great compliments from them. And Matt has done an incredible job with that transition. And, Matt's always outstanding. And I appreciate everything he's done to make that transition smooth. We just had this situation July 5th where the city was in a holiday, obviously, and everybody was off. We didn't have trash pickup for anybody inside of 526, but outside of 526, Trident was picking up in the West Ashley area on July 5th. And, Matt did run something in the newspaper, I believe, and I tried to put something on every individual neighborhood Facebook page to get the word out, but still there were a lot of people that didn't have their cans out. And I was hearing back from homeowners associations and individuals saying, wait a minute, I thought the city was in a holiday. So I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like if that happens, we need to do a better job. I don't know what it is of communicating, or either ask them to go on a one-day delay so that we're consistent, one or the other. But I didn't know if there was ways that we could better communicate with our constituents to make sure they know to put their cans out when if that ever happens again. It may not ever happen again, but I just felt like maybe the communication could be better somehow.
Yeah, when Councilman Shealy brought that up with me, I thought that was an unintended consequence between, I guess, what city holidays are and when we contract with private contractors to pick up city trash. So I don't know whether that's a question for you, Mr. Bryan. How do we coordinate holiday schedules with that of people
Mr.
outside?
Chairman, and I appreciate Mr. Shealy bringing this up. It is an issue. And one thing, if we go back to earlier in the year, I think based on some comments we've received before, what Matt and I, one thing we've tried to do is to alert all of y'all with an email prior to a holiday is what the schedule is going to be. So we really appreciate y'all getting that word out. But I think it's just, no matter what we do, there's probably going to be some issues. I think one thing Matt and I can do, we can check, and we actually did this with Trident and with Capital to see if they were going to run, to see what their schedules are. And we did it far enough in advance to, if they were going to make a delay, then we could get that and include that in the information. Asking them again, I think we'd have to go back and look at our contract to see, because for them being a private entity, sometimes they on holidays that we take, they don't work. And the Monday, Friday holidays are the worst ones. But Matt and I'll be glad to look into and check and see if that's an option to go onto a schedule, or if not, otherwise just continue to get the word out every way we can is what I think we'll do. But we'll also check and see the option.
All right, great. Councilman Griffin, you had a question? You've muted.
Yes, sir. Just if we know that they're going to be working, if we can get that on our one pager that goes out, just so when we put it out there, the outer West Ashley and Daniel Island people know if it's business as usual, it's business as usual. My neighborhood was the same way. Probably 50% of people realized that they had their normal trash day and 50% didn't. Most people just went ahead and put their can out there and just said, well, I'll just leave it out an extra day. But we don't really want people doing that either, because I think the ordinance states you're only supposed to have your can out for one day. So we don't want people sticking their can out there all week long and just hoping that one of the days is the right day. So whatever we can do to formalize that education as well, we moved, done such a great job of moving in the right direction by putting that information out ahead of time. But if we can just get our contractors to always let us know, a few days before the holiday. So
I'll be honest
put that out there.
with the 4th of July, Councilmember Griffin, they were wavering with us. We told them we got to have a decision for that same reason, because it's unfair, because people see city, and even if we had the same line, so we need to work on that to get better with that, and we will.
Okay.
Other than that, though, they've been excellent.
Yes, they have. Thank you.
Part of the issue was with the 4th of July holiday too, the landfills couldn't make up their decision if they were going to run or not. So that kind of put us behind the 8 ball there, because we were waiting on the landfill to inform us if they're going to be open, and it kind of delayed things. But we do put it in the paper. It is sent out by PIO. It's on the website. We send it to you guys. We actually have a meeting with Business and Neighborhood Services next week. We're working on getting a magnet done with holiday schedule, and we're working on some kind of decal that we can put on the cans when the garbage guys are out there, slap it on there, so that way they'll have a holiday schedule for that following year. There are things that we're looking at. So,
all right, a good deal. Y'all continue to work on that one, and just circle back to us at the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Altop and Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, sir.
H1, storm management update. Mr. Fountain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So
Sure.
we only have one item for you today, with H1 being a fee amendment in Church Creek to add additional services to the existing contract with Biohabitats, to take what is currently the 30% design all the way to final design, construction oversight, and as-built survey work on one of our 4 project areas. That's the Mallor Court project area.
Right.
And as y'all probably remember, this project is funded through a combination of National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grants and the Drainage Fund.
I'll move for approval resoundingly.
I'll be moving second. Any more discussion on that for Mr. Fountain? Hearing none, all in favor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Miscellaneous business, a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a letter to Charleston County. Who's going to speak?
So moved.
That's okay. Ms. Copeland, you have any insights for us?
Yes, thank you.
Let's get a motion on the floor. He's moved.
Perfect.
Who's going to second that?
Second.
All right, now discussion, Ms. Copeland.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. So real quickly, this property is at 1845 Zelasco Road. It's in Johns Island. It's in the county, and the county has a new overlay that offers increased density if they can show interconnectivity between their project and any future projects. And part of that is a letter from the city agreeing to accept a 50-foot right-of-way that would facilitate connectivity. So this letter basically is saying we would accept this dedication upon the satisfaction of the requirements for that.
Great. Any more questions of Ms. Copeland? Call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. We've got 4:38. We've got time for some extra discussion. I'm gonna recognize Councilmember Appel, and then I'll come to you, Councilman Shade, and then the mayor. Councilmember Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've got some exciting news to report, around the issue that's near and dear to my heart, which is stormwater improvements and relief for our districts. I think it's one of the things we can all say we have in common here in the city. And I'm lucky to work alongside Senator Sandy Sen. Her and my district overlap, and she has just been tremendously tenacious over the years, coordinating these flood task force walks and coordinating with the bureaucracies at the state, especially DHEC OCRM, on helping us get the permits we need to clean out some of these marsh outfalls and otherwise do work involving the state. And we were chatting earlier this year about all the challenges and complications of getting some of this red tape removed. And I sort of suggested in an offhanded way, Senator Sen, maybe you should just throw something in the budget to just, sort of clear OCRM out of the way, so to speak, on some of these issues. The legislators get the ability to throw these little provisos, I don't know how to pronounce that, into the budget. And lo and behold, she did it, and it got passed. And I want to make sure everyone understands this. It's a huge deal. For the next year, OCRM is out of the way when it comes to permitting maintenance work in the outfalls. Now, this doesn't include major work in the marshes, reestablishing outfalls that have been taken over by nature to past a certain point, but there are less regulatory barriers in effect the next year to do a lot of this work. And especially in my district, this really makes a huge difference. And I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this because it may merit us doing two things. Number one, looking at some opportunities to fund some additional work around these areas around the city while we have this 1 year grace period. And number two, beginning to think about ways we can put in some requests up at the state level for some additional funding for this measure. I was listening in the West Ashley Revitalization Commission meeting yesterday, and Councilman Waring reminded me that the governor is sitting on about $2.5 billion up in Columbia. There's a lot of money that's available right now at the state level for various types of infrastructure. I've got members of the legislative delegation that are, in my district asking me for lists and recommendations from the city with regards to priorities around maintenance and things of that nature, stormwater projects. And I just think it merits us putting our heads together and coming together as a city, maybe district by district, just identifying what we can put on this wish list so we can get that up to Columbia and begin to work this in a coordinated, strategic way, because this is a real opportunity. This is a lot of money. We know we have challenges with funding. And I think that between the regulatory relief we've been provided and the financial resources that are potentially at our disposal, we really have an opportunity to, redouble our efforts, focus in on this, and make some major progress on this area. So I would like to see us do this and be very concerted and focused on this regard. And, just wanted to make that comment. And I know there's probably a lot of this work already going on, but wanted to make sure everybody on the committee was aware of it so we can keep pushing and making progress in this area. So thank you for the time.
Sure. Councilmember Shaid, and then I'll go to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is a good segue from what Councilman Rappel was mentioning following our discussion, Mr. Chairman, of the Revitalization Commission meeting. While we've got Matt and Tom on the line to just follow up with the discussion we had about sidewalks and other cleanup area.
Right.
And if there's funding that can be tapped into, that was some of the discussions that we had yesterday. So I just did not want that to go by the wayside. And I think you and I are very much committed to that idea.
Right.
And we probably have to grab another council member or two in West Ashley and get Mr. Kronsberg online with that as well. So I just wanted to bring that back up to make sure that does not get out of our mindset as to what we want to do with that. That was a good discussion we had yesterday.
It was a good discussion.
Brian.
Thank you for bringing that up, and I'll circle back to that. But Mr. Mayor, if you, I know you have some things going on with our lobbyists what pertains to the money out of Columbia. Can you speak, would you like to speak to the question that Councilman Rappel just brought up? Because that part about how do we put together, I know we're gonna put together strategy. The how-tos, how we gonna put together this, and it's not a wish list, it's a need list, frankly, to go in front of Columbia to ask for some of these dollars. Can you speak to that, please?
Well, I wasn't present. I was out of town last week, but Rick met with our lobbyists out of Columbia. So if you don't mind, if I could defer to him regarding that discussion.
Yeah.
But I know staff is working together on so to speak, that not wish list, but that need list.
Right. But
think-
Rick, before you speak,
Sure.
it's best that we do this not online, frankly. I could understand that too. But I think the premise is that whenever this need list is put together, it's going to take a full course press, not only on the lobbyists, but you, the mayor, Mr. Mayor, all council members to call on what contacts we have in and out of the General Assembly to hopefully bring focus to our request. So I don't know if we're going to speak our total strategy online, a strategy that's not quite put together, but the main thing, we know we need to do something soon. So in that light, Mr. Giroux, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we did meet with our lobbyists last week. It was Mark Wilbert, myself, Kalen Kozella. We had collected all of the information on projects that we had submitted to Congress for earmarks. And we've shared them with her. And we're waiting to hear back from her with her idea. Basically, she's going to come up with a strategy on which projects she thinks has the most chance and which legislators would be the best to contact with, both Democratic and Republican. We're going to get that back from her. Then we'll share that list with everyone to get their thoughts based on her ideas of which ones she thinks has the most success. Her suggestion was to, on that list, have at least one or two real big projects and then a handful of smaller projects. And so we're still waiting to hear back from her, and we'll share that with everyone as soon as we get it.
Now, who's that person again, Rick?
Lynn Stokes Murray. She's been our lobbyist for the last couple of years. She was with the old McNair group, and they've now merged with another group. And ironically, she had been already contacted by Senator Kimpson to talk about projects that he might be able to be helpful with the city. So she's going to be talking to our local delegation pretty extensively in the next couple of weeks. The process will be the House, the Senate has named a 5-member committee. The Senate Finance Committee has named a 5-member committee. The House Ways and Means Committee will do a similar committee. We expect there are no Charleston senators on the Senate committee, but we're pretty hopeful that Representative Stavronakis will be on the House Ways and Means 5-member committee. And those are the committees that are going to make the recommendations as to how the state dollars will be spent.
That's right. That's how I understand it as well. Now, how do we crystallize our list? Is she going to come back to us with projects, or are we going to go to her?
We just sent her all the projects that we had sent to Congress earlier this year, just to get some idea of if she thought those kinds of projects were worthwhile pursuing. And then I think we're going to gather from everyone on council their wish list as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I hear you on that. One of the things that, so we got roughly 60 days or so to go and hopefully get this less than 60 days, because they're going to divide this money up in September, as I understand.
That's correct.
You know, West Ashley revitalization, I don't know whether we have any economic development money in there to try to kickstart something over at the Epic Center. You know, I briefly talked about, we talked about the low line and monies for that, but Mr. Mayor, you and I did. And if we were to tie that in with the Ravenel Bridge going all the way down to Main Road on the Greenway, and obviously when 526 is built, they're going to be bike lanes and pedestrian lanes on 526 to James and Johns Island. The Swamp Rabbit Trail up in Greenville is actually 22 miles long. We would actually have the ability to create bike pedestrian pathways that would be longer, that would go from Mount Pleasant all the way to Johns Island, inclusive of West Ashley and James Island. I think that's something unique. That's something that we can maybe obviously finish the low line with, but this is one-time money. I mean, so we can get together and talk about our projects, but somehow I don't know that we have anything in there for economic development for what could be our town center. West Ashley would revitalize and the Epic Center.
Sure.
I think there's some in there. Columbia's got money in there for affordable housing. I don't know whether we asked Washington had something included for affordable housing. And obviously these drainage projects and infrastructure projects that we all need help with. The water project that we're talking about on the 3x3 piece. You know, I don't know whether that's going to be included. So obviously we need to have a little huddle sooner rather than later, and obviously outside the context of the meeting.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. And all of those projects that you just mentioned, with the exception of the Epic Center, were ones that we had shared with Congress when we were looking for earmarks. So those are all shared with Lynn as well. So, but I think the helpful thing from a staff point of view would be if council members sent me their ideas as what they, what would make a sensible project, and we can put that all together and share it with everyone.
Good idea. Maybe we can get together in groups of 3s or something and meet with you to speed the process up. I mean, I'm game for that. All right, Councilman Griffin, you had your hand up.
Yes, sir. Was Mr. Mayor, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, unrelated. So please proceed, and I'll be glad to follow after.
Okay. Mine will be quick. I just wanted to thank Matt Fountain and our stormwater department for meeting out in the Church Creek Basin just a few days ago. We met with Golf Wheels, which is the Shadow Moss Golf Course, as well as a condominium unit that's actually in the county, but has two 48-inch culverts out in front of their condominium units that actually run through the heart of Church Creek and service a lot of our neighborhoods out there. So we have some interesting easements and some private easements out there. And I'd love it if we could get that for a discussion item on our next agenda to maybe look at some of those and see maybe if some other council members are facing some similar dilemmas. We all came together and had a great meeting this week, and all agencies involved are trying to remedy the situation because we all understand that we all have some skin in it. I've contacted DOT. They're going to go out there and do some maintenance along the Bees Ferry walkway. Golf Wheels is going to get out there and spray. So we're all coming together to find a common solution, because the last thing we need is to have two 48-inch culverts that drain into Church Creek covered with debris and vegetation. So thank you, Matt, for leading that discussion. And I look forward to us remedying that situation, and also seeing what other solutions we can come up with where we can tie all of our intergovernmental agencies and partners together. Thank you.
Good deal. Mr. Mayor, you had a...
Yeah, I just wanted to share with the committee that yesterday I did a little tour with a reporter from out of town, and I first time in a few months I'd been over to phase 4 of Spring Fishburne to look over the top into where all that concrete's being poured for the last couple of months. Y'all, we got one heck of a cement pond down there, and Ellie Mae and the whole Clampett family would be very impressed. It is really impressive looking, and I welcome y'all to schedule a little tour with Steve Kirk whenever you like, or maybe we could do something together. It is really coming along, and I was impressed. So I just want to share that, number one. Number two, and Councilmember Appel, I share your enthusiasm. I share your gratitude to Senator Sin for what she's done. I do want to not dampen the enthusiasm, but just make you aware that it doesn't put us out in the clear completely, because there are many of those outfalls that may or may not require permission from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And Matt Fountain is working on that along with the county. But I did want to let you know, it's not like the Wild Wild West. We can't just run out there still and do what we want. There's still regulatory hurdles, I think, to clear.
Okay. All right. Listen, it's been a good meeting. Any last comments? Councilmember Shahid, you're right. We had a good West Ashley Revitalization Committee meeting. And one of the things to follow up on, we pointed out some of the areas several years ago that were improved. In other words, coming across the Ashley River Bridge, we're on one bridge, and you got the fork of the road going to 61 and around to Savannah Highway. You see some areas landscaped there. That was actually done by previous council members getting monies out of the city's budget to get that done. The islands right there with Old Town Road and St. Andrews Boulevard intersect along with 61. They're landscaped now. Again, those were city appropriations that will get done. I made mention about the island between the old Blue Cross and Blue Shield building and the pig site. Paul Tinkler actually dedicated his annual salary to that 1 year. And believe it or not, we enjoy that, the crepe myrtles and the flowers and the bedding that's there now. You go down to the mall where Sam Rittenberg goes into Orleans Road. There's a little triangular area there that's landscape. Jason coordinated with on all those things with CPW to get water there. Not only are they landscape, but we got sprinklers in there to keep it looking nice. So those are little small victories that don't cost that much. And one of the hopefully action steps that came out of that was we will coordinate with the county on the gateway coming into from the North Bridge on the west side, which is between Sandhurst and Sam Rittenberg, the frontage road on Sandhurst. Wonderful mature trees in there. Just needs to be cleaned up, pruned, mulched, and some bedding plants put in there. And government already controls those properties. We don't have to buy that property to be able to do that. Continuing around on Sam Rittenberg, across from what's that? Ashley Manor, Peter, over in your area. You muted, Peter. Ashley Manor. That's
Ashley Manor and part of Charlestown Estates as well.
Great. That's up in those areas. Government controls those easements. We've got mature palm trees, mature pine trees there. Prune them, mulch, put some bedding plants, flowering plants, and then all of a sudden we got a dressed up gateway that doesn't really cost a whole lot of money, but it does create, we need coordination between the county and the city. So we're going to meet with hopefully Mr. Fountain out here, the Public Works Department, maybe one or two others, and then Mr. Armstrong and Councilmember Moody and maybe another county council person. And hopefully get an estimate, get them to get estimates what it's going to cost to get that done, and then we'll go back and fight hopefully with our respective bodies and come up with a few bucks and get them done. So that was the focus discussion. And that's all in at 4:57. Please let this be a lesson to the chairman of the real estate committee. What all we got done in less than an hour. Any last comment?
Move that we adjourn.
By acclamation, we stand adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.